not proud of. But you sort of grow on that. So I eventually became, I guess a professional photographer, and found my focus and my enjoyment in conceptual and fine art photography with self-portraits and stuff like that. And that's kind of where we are now.
Great. Tell us some of the challenges that you face, like where do you come up with the idea for the subjects or the locations?
There's a lot of challenges when it comes to what I'm doing. I used to have a planning day midway through the week where I would plan out, I would sketch out a concept, and I'd come up with all of the props that I needed. And I've gotten a little bit lazy with that. And sometimes it's the day of where I'm sat on my couch in the morning going, what are we going to do today? So there are definitely some creative challenges. Sometimes it just kind of comes to you, and I've got an idea ready to go, and I know exactly what I'm going to do and where it's going to be. Other days it's sort of just creeping the internet or walking around the house to see what I have that'll inspire an idea. And it usually doesn't take very much. Sometimes it takes a lot to really get an idea in there, but once I've got something, I can kind of run with it, and it's great.
So what's your locations? You mentioned your house. Are they always shot in your house?
Not always. No, I've got 3 or 4 sort of primary outside locations that I like to use. I call one my magical woods.
Okay.
I've got a waterfall-esque location. There's another spot in Pippi Park that's actually really cool with a lot of varieties in background and scene. So even though I shoot every week and there's only like 4 or 5 places that I'm shooting, you'd never say they were the same place.
Okay.
So lots of options.
And you're usually just a subject yourself?
Typically, I do focus on, like for my 52s, my photo once a week, every week for a year. It's just myself, but I do sort of more fantasy-based shoots more recently, actually, with a lot of other people, which has been really exciting.
Now, I want to touch on that a bit. Your 52 shoots. Explain that to us, please.
In 2016, I decided it'd be a great idea to just sort of up my level of creativity, because I was doing a lot of client work and I wasn't doing the stuff that I really enjoyed. So I decided to just take a self-portrait every week for a year and see how it went. And that started off my waitlist series, which is sort of a body positive mental health series. And after 2016, I decided I'd continue in 2017, and now in 2021, here we are, still doing a photo a week, every week for a year.
So CDOCon and Buren Expo are half-day events, whereas Avalon Expo is a 3-day full weekend with a full selection of things to do, and much bigger, obviously.
Okay, so let's start off at the beginning. Avalon Expo. How many years ago?
Well, this year was the 7th.
7th year. Okay, for somebody that's brand new, I call them all comic book conventions.
Well,
so would yours fall under comic book conventions, or what would you call yours?
The definition I've come to is fan convention.
Fan convention, okay.
But comic books are definitely in there. Sci-fi, fantasy, gaming, pop culture, all of that. I mean, that's sort of the bubble.
Okay, yeah.
That encompasses everything like that. If you have fun doing something that might be termed geeky or nerdy, you're going to find it at Avalon Expo.
All right, so you got a brand new client, customer, attendee, whatever we want to call it, fan, just bought their ticket coming in through the door. What can they expect to see and do at Avalon Expo? People
in costumes. Maybe they'll be in costume. Not everybody's comfortable in costume, but you're going to have every skill level of costumes.
Okay.
And every one of them is fantastic. Of course, there are some amazing costumes out there. And then there's, I would do a very basic costume if I were to do a costume. But you put, you put your love and your heart into it, and it's worth every much as the amazing costumes.
Yeah, yeah.
You'll see huge selection of vendors that sell everything of geeky items.
Okay, so what kind of vendors would you find at Avalon Expo?
Toys, collectible card games, board games, local crafts and art in a geeky vein. There's some clothing. Just trying to come back to me right.
Yeah. So is this all the stuff that you would see? I call them vendors or the stores.
Yep.
All those people selling stuff at Avalon Expo, would that be all mass marketed stuff like you would see at a comic book shop, or do you have local people making their own arts and crafts and Harry Potter wands and all this kind of do people make their own stuff and sell there?
Both, actually.
Okay.
We have vendors that sell the mass market stuff. Funko Pops obviously are one of the biggest
Yes.
biggest items you're
Yeah.
going to find at one of those. We do have some local comic shops that do also go to the events. You know, even just to be among their people.
Sure, yes.
But there's also a lot of arts and crafts done by local artists. There's also authors, local authors, especially in the sci-fi and fantasy genres.
Yeah.
So just everything under the sun in that nerdy, geeky vein.
But I've worked as a DP on a couple different things, on a couple different projects. I've been a production manager on things. I've produced a couple shorts, and I've done a bunch of smaller projects as writer and director. So. Yeah. So it's you know, doing stuff like the Nickel Horror Challenge every year was a big thing for me to just kind of keep at it while I was working on other people's stuff.
Right.
So.
Is that something that's still going on now? The Nickel Horror Challenge?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
There was something that was started. I was actually on the board of the Nickel back when that one got started in, I think, maybe 2013 or 2012, something around there. And it was just a 48-hour challenge, so people get something to get kind of specific prompts of like a line of dialogue or a prop or a character or something like that, and they have 48 hours to write, shoot, and edit a short horror film.
So you would put out, like, what would be an example of something that you would put out there?
One of the big ones that we did was the Calming. The Calming was actually the one that I made the year that I wrote. So I had that Halloween written before we made the Calming, and the Calming was one that me and Blair Downey did, and we got our prop and line of dialogue, which was a clear plastic bag, and it's not what it looks like as a line. And we wrote the movie Friday night, and we shot it on Saturday and edited it and submitted on Sunday, and then we actually won Best Movie and Scariest Movie that year with that one.
So you're given one line of dialogue
Yeah.
and a plastic bag.
Well, we weren't even given the plastic bag.
Oh.
We were just told we had to have a plastic bag in the movie. Yeah.
And that
was it. And then
that was it.
Yeah. And they've done that every year since, and they've changed kind of the order and different things that way. Yeah, it's fun.
That is excellent. Tell us a little about your writing, about your books.
Well, Teranova was the first one. It came out last year. And that one was really fun to work with Engine on that. It's something I've always wanted to do, and you know, getting the opportunity to work with a bunch of people on it. It's the book's an anthology, and Teranova 2, which is out now. It's an anthology where we have, it's kind of like, I remember a lot of great anthologies when I was younger with really good framing devices, and that was always the thing that I really like. I love the structure of people telling stories in stories, and that's kind of what happened with the book. Matt from Engine and I were talking about what to do and how to kind of put together an anthology, and we kind of came up with this idea of, I had done a couple years ago, I was in Dublin and had done this like ghost bus tour.
Okay.
And it's just basically kind of like the haunted hike here, but it's on a bus and it drives you all over Dublin. And so that's what we decided would be the framing device. And so each stop along the way, it's a bus that takes people all over Newfoundland, and each stop along the way is a different story from a different author, and then I've written the framing device that goes around all that and one of the stories. And so that was super fun. And then, you know, Teranova 2 is a little bit different than the first one. It doesn't have the bus, but you know, who knows? The bus might come back for a third if we get to that point.
The FDM is a common printer. It's easy to get into. That just takes a roll of plastic, heats it up, melts it, and extrudes it out. So basically, it's like if you had a hot glue gun and you were moving it around to make a design, but you build up your design in layers until your object is completed. For instance, the Optimus Prime here.
Yep.
He is supposed to be about 12 inches tall when he's complete.
Right.
He's made of a bunch of different parts that we printed individually, but because of some of the printers I have are larger, I was able to scale him up to a maximum size of what my printers could handle. And we created this 42-inch tall Optimus Prime. That's fully posable. He's now
fully posable.
Yeah.
So with Optimus here now, did you design him yourself, or do you find like is there a place where you can get files online that people already made stuff and you just download? How does it work?
So you can, if you're used to drawing on computers, you can use CAD software like Fusion 360 or another thing called Tinkercad. there's a bunch of different ones out there where you can draw your 3D shapes yourself.
Okay.
And use your 3D printer to print those out. But there are a lot of websites out there where you can just go in and download patterns or the files that other people have designed. There's a lot that are free, and some you have to pay for, depending on what site you're on and what the person does. So it's a very addictive hobby.
Oh, is it?
Yes, and you can create things like, what Optimus Prime is kind of a thing that we created, that are printed in our house, and but there's other uses for a 3D printer, and like you can make spare parts for things in your home. I've printed door handles for my screen doors. I've printed little accessories for my son's room, who's gotten into a Star Wars theme, so we've 3D printed like a Star Destroyer that is about 24 inches long in total, and that hangs from his ceiling along with a Death Star. We've also printed some costume pieces. I've started, I'm probably about a quarter way through 3D printing a Iron Man suit that I will wear.
Oh, that's nice.
And it'll be fully motorized, so the helmet will automatically open and close, and lights, and just like the movie suit.
Just like the movie suit.
It's hard plastic.
Right.
But I've also done things where I've actually had a gentleman who had a very old automobile that needed a part. The pattern was out there.
Okay.
And he came to me, and I just had to get the right material to 3D print, so I 3D printed this car part for a very old Porsche that you can't buy anymore.
Tell us all about AMP.
Well, AMP is the Association for the Arts in Mount Pearl. And we were very careful choosing our name to be the Association for the Arts, not of the arts, because we're all about having more art happening in Mount Pearl. And we don't really care where the artists are from, as long as they're willing to come to Mount Pearl to do some artwork with us, to help us give people opportunities to be more creative. Creativity is such an important factor in life for your health and your relaxation and for anti-stress and for building community, that we wanted to give people an opportunity to do that.
Now, you mentioned artist. What qualifies someone or something as art?
That's up to them.
Loaded question.
It's not a loaded question for us, actually.
Okay.
If you're a professional art organization, well, you have to choose your own criteria. But we're a community art organization, so therefore anything goes. If you tell us you're an artist, you're an artist. Now, we will engage, if we're hosting a workshop, we will engage someone who has done work in that area professionally to host the workshop. But if someone wants to join an event to participate, or if they want to sell their work at one of our events in which you can sell work, then we let them self-define as art, because we don't need to set, we don't need to be like the Craft Council or anywhere else and set a specific set of criteria. We need people to engage with their creativity. So our mission is different. So we can let people be artists on their own terms.
Excellent. What's the origins of AMP? How long ago?
Well, I made it up.
Oh, did you?
I did.
So you're the founder?
I am the founder, yes.
Okay.
Back in 2005, I was part of an advisory committee with the City of Mount Pearl, and one of the things that was sort of missing from our plans for more art in the city was for there to be sort of a grassroots organization, to have some sort of affiliated group of artists. And when I realized that that was the thing that was the missing piece in moving art forward in the city, I decided to round some people up. And so that's what I did. And so in 2005, I called a meeting, rounded up about 30 people, and we broke off into committees and got things started. So it's been going since 2005, and so we're on our 16th year now. We were supposed to have a big celebration last year for our 15th year, but that didn't play out for, I don't know, some unknown reason.
I wonder. How did you get involved with it?
I started in Michigan. I actually wanted to do some modern Olympics fencing with the wife, and at the time they weren't taking any more students.
Right.
So I stumbled upon what is called the SCA, Society of Creative Anachronism.
Yes, yeah.
And they were just fencing with big rapiers, real swords out in the field.
Yes.
And that drew my attention right away, and that eventually led to HEMA, which is Historical European Martial Arts.
Okay.
Yes.
That is amazing. What are some of the different types of, or different categories, would you call it, or different subjects, or different forms of it?
So it's funny you say that because, you know, nowadays if you go to martial arts, you have Kung Fu, Taekwondo,
Yes.
Karate, you have all these different forms.
Right.
In Europe, they pretty much had that as well. So you have German longsword, you have Italian longsword, and depending on which Italian master, they might teach that differently and have their own style to it. And the same with rapier. The Italians were famous for rapier fighting, rapier and dagger,
Yeah.
whereas the Spanish used the rapier just single-handedly without a dagger.
Okay.
So,
And you have a school here in St. John's.
correct, yes.
Tell us the name of the school and a little bit about it.
The school's called Teranova School of Swords.
Yeah.
Named it after Newfoundland. Its original name was Teranova, so
That's
I
right, yes.
figured I'd go back and use the old
Yeah.
name. And I came up with this school, and our programs we offer is longsword, Spanish rapier, we have Highland broadsword, we have French small sword as well,
Yeah.
and we also have LED sabers for the kids and the youths.
So LED sabers,
Or
a
lightsabers.
non-trademark name for lightsabers.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
All right, so we've got some different models here. Just probably pick one up and show us a little
Yeah, so-
about each one.
This one here is the
There we go.
this one here is the long sword.
Yep.
In Hollywood, it seems like it would be huge, but it's actually really isn't. Now this one weighs about 2.5. Historically, they could weigh about 3 to 3.5. However, Hollywood tends to make it look like it weighs 50 pounds.
Of course, yes.
But realistically, if you were a soldier and this was what was given to you, or this is what your family heirloom was,
Yeah.
you wouldn't want to march across, from Italy to Germany with something that weighs 50 pounds.
No, that's right.
So you want something that weighs about 2.5 pounds,
Yep.
because it's going to be stuck to your hip. Right? Now we have this one in particularly is the Spanish rapier, and the difference is it's got a shortened grip because it allows you to make circular motions a little bit easier,
Yep.
and it has a bowl guard because it's very protective on the fingers, because fingers and hands was an easy target for the rapierists, and the Italian guard is much more like. It's got a swept hilt. It's
Right.
got a little bit of a longer grip. This one here is actually very tip weighted. So
Okay.
the Spanish, they like to thrust and cut at the same time. So these rapiers, although they look slender, they can actually cut tatami, which would be close to someone's limb, per se.
Okay.
Whereas the Spanish rapier is more pointy, thinner, and it's meant only for thrusting.
Mary, what is steampunk?
Steampunk originally came into being, the term around the 1980s as a subgenre of cyberpunk. It was kind of like Victorian science fiction, as an easy way to explain it.
Okay.
It's inventions at a time. Now, it's been around for literature since the 1800s, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Jules Verne, yes.
Jules Verne, Around the World in 80 Days.
Yep.
It's inventions where inventions should not be. It's if industrial revolution ever happened and everything still runs in steam.
Okay.
It's no, maybe some transistors, but no computerized. It's gears. Could be spaceships, could be dystopia, could be can't breathe.
Can't breathe.
Post-apocalyptic. Can't talk, which
Yep.
is funny for me. I can talk. Post-apocalyptic. It's run by more mechanical than it is computerized.
Oh, great. That's a good description. Now, there is a local steampunk group, society, club.
There is.
What are you guys called?
It
What's
is-
your official title?
Steampunk Newfoundland.
Okay.
We have a Facebook page
Yep.
and a web page.
Okay.
The Facebook page is run by Brent Slade.
Okay.
And the web page, the Facebook page and the Facebook group. He's actually the guy who brought it to Newfoundland.
When did it start?
In 2010, actually, Brent was talking to the Steampunk Society of Toronto and was very interested, and he actually had a panel at Sci-Fi on the Rock.
Okay.
And telling people what it was and be interested, and it kind of formed with that. He and a couple of more people Let me see now. I just want it back there. I want to make sure their names. Amy Linehan and Brittany Ward were the first three that did it.
Okay.
They had a booth. They had panels. I joined maybe a year, 2 years later. We've had steampunk teas. We've had crafting groups.
Yeah.
Every time, different ones, and panels about different steampunks and all of the different subgenres, which is there are a lot of.
Do you guys attend any events with your clubs?
We do. We attend the conventions first.
The conventions, yeah.
Sci-Fi on the Rock, Avalon Expo.
Yeah.
Buren Expo out in Buren.
Okay.
We just finished doing a modified one, of course,
Okay.
at C.Con, very first convention in Clarenville.
Clarenville, okay.
We also have been part of something the Rooms has been doing a couple of times, where they get us there. One time it was during a costume exhibition, which Sci-Fi on the Rock was
Okay.
involved in, and we did crafting then. Another
Nice.
time it was for a Halloween party, which we did crafting as well. Basically, we've been expanding the last few years,
Yep.
a couple of years, everything's been shut down.
Right.
But people seem to be more interested. They understand what it is more. There's not a whole lot, I don't understand what this is, explain it to me.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, I know what that is. My sister likes it, my wife likes it, my husband likes it.
That's right.
So people kind of know more.
Now, you're really, really done up, very interesting today, and gorgeous. Tell us a little bit about your, what's it referred to, suit, costume?
Costume, cosplay. Steampunk cosplay is. Basically, I was reading before I came here, and they was like, what's the best things for steampunk cosplay? It was like, when in doubt, start off Victorian and add stuff to it.
Today
I sound like we're on the Oscars.
I know. It's like, well, my gown is made by. Yeah. No, today I am wearing my Thor cosplay, inspired by the Marvel movie Infinity War. The outfit Thor was wearing then. I added a couple of personal touches myself, but that's mostly what it's inspired by.
How long have you been cosplaying?
It's been 3 or 4 years now. I think it was 2018. I went to Sci-Fi on the Rock for the first time. I always dress up every Halloween with my my boys, and but that was the actual first convention I went to, and after that I was hooked.
Speaking of the boys, what do the boys think of Dad getting dressed up like this?
Oh, they love it. They're used to it by now. From a very young age, they saw I have lots of toys at home that they're not allowed to play with, and we always have a fun Halloween and whatnot. So they're used to it, and they know it's a hobby of mine. So
Yeah, that's nice. So, what kind of events do you attend as a cosplayer?
really, any event I can. I started with Sci-Fi on the Rock, and started doing Bane. Was my first official cosplay. The movie version from Dark Knight Rises by Tom Hardy.
Yep.
So I did that version, and I got great response that year, and I was asked to do some meet and greets out front and whatnot, and I started knowing different cosplayers and getting ideas. So then didn't want to just have Bane. Bane's a bit scary for the kids. So I needed some more friendly characters to do, and not always masks. So then I moved on and started doing Thor and different ones, and I've done Horror Con, the first two.
Oh, nice.
I was a guest player for those. I also dressed as Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th series.
That's at the HorrorCon.
Yeah, HorrorCon. The first 2 years was in Carbonear at Stone Jug. Last year's got canceled because of the pandemic.
Yes.
They were planning on doing it at the Newfoundland Armory there by RNC.
Okay.
So yeah, and I'll probably do, when it starts going again, I'll have another version of Jason for them to do, and keep going from there. So really any event I can. One's coming up when they start going again. I'll do Sci-Fi on the Rock again. I think I'm going to do Atlanticon. But sometimes they're not necessarily big events. I've been asked a couple times to do the hockey games with the Growlers.
Oh, nice.
They had a Marvel night, so that time I did Punisher at one hockey game, and then they had a Batman-themed night.
Nice.
So I dressed up as Bane for that one.
Nice, yeah.
So sometimes it may be at a comic book store. They're having free comic book day, and they want some cosplayers to be there to mix with the kids and to take pictures and whatnot. So I've done a few of those at Heroes and Hobbies and local store at Amanda Skinner's, and really any event. I don't do it
for the fame or pay or anything. It's just a fun thing to do, to dress up.
I had a great time this season, and I hope you guys did too. We will see you again in the future. Now I've got to call and get this fixed. Hello, Space Side Assistance.